What if I told you that a tiny 1% improvement each day could completely transform your life? Sounds too simple to be true, right? Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly achieve their goals while others struggle? Or why big changes never seem to stick? Well, here's something mind-blowing. That small 1% compounds into something massive over time. Want to know the secret behind how successful people create lasting change? Keep watching. You know how sometimes we feel overwhelmed when trying to make big changes in our lives? We look at successful people and think they must have made some massive, dramatic transformations to get where they are. But here's the thing, most lasting change doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually, little by little, day by day, and that's exactly what we're going to explore in this video. Think about it like this, if you were to improve just 1% each day, by the end of the year, you'd be 37 times better than when you started. Not 365% better, but 37 times better. That's the power of compound improvement. It's like starting with a single penny and doubling it every day for a month. By day 30, you'd have over $5 million. The same principle applies to personal growth and improvement. Throughout this video, we're going to break down exactly how this 1% improvement concept works, show you real-life examples, and give you practical ways to implement it in your own life. We'll explore how this approach can transform everything from your health and fitness to your career and relationships. So let's jump right in and discover how small steps can lead to massive changes. Now you might be wondering why we're making such a big deal about tiny improvements. Well, there's actually some fascinating science behind this approach, and it all comes down to how our brains work. When we try to make massive changes all at once, our brains tend to freak out a little. It's like trying to lift a weight that's way too heavy. You're more likely to drop it and give up entirely. Think about what happens when you walk into a dark room from bright sunlight. Your eyes need time to adjust, right? They can't instantly adapt to the dramatic change. Our brains work in a similar way when it comes to forming new habits and making improvements. They need time to adjust and adapt to new patterns and behaviors. This is where neuroscience comes into play. Every time we perform an action or think a certain way, we're creating and strengthening neural pathways in our brain. These pathways are like trails in a forest. The more you walk them, the clearer and easier to follow they become. When we make small, consistent improvements, we're gradually creating and reinforcing these neural pathways in a way that's sustainable and long-lasting. But here's what's really cool. These small improvements actually trigger something called neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to form new connections and reorganize itself. When we focus on improving just 1% each day, we're working with our brain's natural ability to adapt and grow, rather than fighting against it. It's like slowly turning up the dimmer switch instead of suddenly flipping on all the lights. The beauty of this approach is that it works with our natural biological systems rather than against them. It's sustainable, manageable, and most importantly, it sticks. Because when we make improvements in small increments, we're not just changing our actions, we're literally rewiring our brains for long-term success. Let's talk about something really exciting, the compound effect. You know how a snowball gets bigger and bigger as it rolls down a hill? That's exactly what happens when we focus on improving 1% each day. Each small improvement might not seem like much on its own, but when they start building on each other, that's when the magic happens. Here's what's fascinating about the compound effect. It works in virtually every area of our lives. Whether we're talking about learning a new skill, building better habits, or working toward a big goal, these tiny improvements stack up in ways we might not expect. It's like putting money into a savings account that earns interest. At first, the growth seems slow, but over time, the interest starts earning its own interest and the growth accelerates. But there's something even more powerful at play here. When we start seeing these small improvements add up, it creates a positive feedback loop in our brains. Success, even in small doses, releases dopamine, our brain's reward chemical. This makes us more motivated to keep going, which leads to more improvements, which creates more success, and the cycle continues. Think about learning to play an instrument. On day one, you might only be able to play a single note, but if you improve just 1% each day, soon you're playing simple melodies, then chords, then entire songs. Each small improvement builds on the last, creating a foundation for the next level of growth. Before you know it, you're doing things you never thought possible when you started. This compound effect isn't just about the skills or habits themselves, it's about how these improvements spill over into other areas of our lives. When we start seeing progress in one area, it often gives us the confidence to make changes in others. It's like a ripple effect of positive change throughout our lives. Now that we understand the power of 1% improvements, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how to actually make this work in our daily lives. Don't worry, we're going to keep it super practical and doable. Remember, we're not looking for massive overhauls here, we're aiming for small, consistent steps forward. First things first, let's talk about what a 1% improvement actually looks like in real life. If you're a writer, it might mean writing just 50 more words than yesterday. If you're into fitness, it could be doing one more push-up or holding a plank for 5 seconds longer. If you're learning a language, maybe it's learning 3 new words each day. The key is to make these improvements so small that they feel almost laughably easy. But here's where most people get tripped up. They try to improve everything at once. That's not what we're going for here. Instead, we want to focus on 1 or 2 areas at a time. Think of it like spinning plates. Try to spin too many at once and they'll all come crashing down. Start with one plate, get it spinning smoothly, then add another. One really effective way to make this work is to tie your 1% improvements to existing habits. We all have routines we follow each day, why not piggyback on these? For example, if you already have a morning coffee routine, use that time to do your daily language practice. If you always watch TV in the evening, do some light stretching during commercial breaks. These habit stacks make it much easier to stay consistent with our improvements. Another crucial aspect is tracking your progress, but not in an obsessive way. We're not talking about complicated spreadsheets here, unless that's your thing. A simple note on your phone or a quick check mark in a journal can do wonders. The key is to make it easy to see how these small improvements are adding up over time. Let's get real for a moment. Improving 1% each day sounds great in theory, but what happens when we hit those inevitable roadblocks and plateaus? Because trust us, they're going to come up, and that's completely normal. In fact, it's actually part of the process, and understanding this can make all the difference in staying on track. Sometimes it might feel like we're not making any progress at all, even when we're putting in the work. This is where a lot of people get discouraged and give up. But here's the thing, progress isn't always linear. Sometimes we're building strength or skills behind the scenes that we can't see yet. It's like water heating up. It might not look like anything's happening at first, but suddenly it starts to boil. One of the most powerful things we can do when facing a plateau is to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Instead of focusing on day-to-day changes, look at where you were a month ago, even 3 months ago. Often, we'll be surprised to see just how far we've come. Those small 1% improvements might not be visible on a daily basis, but they're absolutely adding up over time. What about when we face setbacks? Maybe we miss a day, or we feel like we're moving backward instead of forward. This is where a lot of people throw in the towel completely. But here's a different way to look at it. Setbacks are actually opportunities for learning and growth. They show us where we might need to adjust our approach or where we might be pushing too hard. The key is to remember that the 1% improvement mindset isn't about perfection. It's about progress. If you miss a day, no problem. If you have a week where things don't go as planned, that's okay too. The goal is to keep moving forward overall, even if there are some zigzags along the way. Now let's explore something really fascinating about this 1% improvement approach. It doesn't just affect us individually. The changes we make, no matter how small, have a way of creating ripples that extend far beyond our personal lives. It's like throwing a pebble into a pond. The ripples keep spreading outward in ways we might not expect. When we start making consistent improvements in our lives, the people around us notice, not because we're showing off or making a big deal about it, but because positive change has a way of being contagious. Maybe your commitment to improving 1% each day inspires a friend to start their own journey, or perhaps your increased productivity at work encourages your colleagues to examine their own habits. Think about how this plays out in relationships. When we're constantly working on becoming better versions of ourselves, our interactions with others naturally improve too. We might become better listeners, more patient partners, or more understanding friends. These improvements in our relationships then create their own positive ripple effects in our communities and networks. This ripple effect also shows up in unexpected ways in our professional lives. Maybe those small daily improvements in your communication skills lead to better team collaboration, which then leads to more successful projects. Or perhaps your commitment to learning something new each day inspires your company to implement similar practices across the organization. The beautiful thing about these ripples is that they often come back to benefit us in ways we never anticipated. It's like creating a positive feedback loop in our environment. The more we improve, the more we inspire others, which in turn creates an environment that supports even more growth and improvement. Now that we've explored the power of 1% improvements, let's talk about something really important: getting the right support along the way. Because while small steps are powerful, having professional guidance can help us make those improvements even more effectively. That's why we're excited to tell you about onlinetherapy.com, an incredible platform that's revolutionizing how we approach personal growth and mental wellness. Think about it. Even Olympic athletes have coaches, right? Well, onlinetherapy.com is like having a professional coach for your mental well-being, accessible right from the comfort of your home. What makes this platform special is their comprehensive approach to therapy and personal development. They've created what they call the most complete online therapy toolbox. And trust us, that's not an exaggeration. At the heart of their program is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, one of the most effective and well-researched therapeutic approaches out there. CBT is all about identifying and transforming those thought patterns and behaviors that might be holding us back from making those 1% improvements we've been talking about. It's like having a roadmap for your personal growth journey. What we really love about onlinetherapy.com is how they've structured their support system. You get weekly 45-minute live sessions with your therapist, and you can choose whether you want these via video, voice, or text. But here's the really cool part. You're not limited to just those sessions. You get unlimited messaging with every plan, so you can share your thoughts, progress, or concerns whenever they come up. They've also created this amazing 8-section CBT program with 25 worksheets, which perfectly aligns with our 1% improvement approach. Instead of trying to figure out everything on your own, you get daily worksheet replies from your therapist Monday through Friday. Plus, they've included some fantastic bonus features like exclusive yoga and meditation videos, a journal, and an activity plan. All tools that can help support your daily improvements. For those who want even more support, their premium plan offers 2 weekly live sessions plus express replies. And the best part, all of this starts at just $40 per week with a special 20% discount for your first month. That's incredibly affordable compared to traditional therapy, making professional support accessible to more people. The flexibility they offer is amazing too. You can switch therapists if needed, choose from different subscription levels, and cancel anytime. It's all about finding what works best for you and your personal growth journey. And isn't that what making those 1% improvements is all about? Finding sustainable ways to keep growing and developing? Lastly, let's talk about something crucial: how to keep this momentum going for the long haul. Because let's face it, starting something new is often the easy part. It's maintaining it over time that really tests our commitment and creativity. The key to sustaining long-term success with the 1% improvement approach is to make it feel natural and enjoyable rather than a chore. This means being flexible with our definition of improvement. Some days, improvement might mean taking a step forward in our skills or habits. Other days, it might mean taking better care of ourselves or reflecting on what we've learned from a challenge. One powerful way to maintain momentum is to celebrate the small wins along the way. We're not talking about throwing a party every time you make a tiny improvement. Although hey, if that works for you, go for it. It's more about acknowledging and appreciating the progress you're making. These celebrations, no matter how small, help wire our brains to associate improvements with positive feelings. Another crucial aspect of sustaining success is adapting our approach as we grow. What worked for us in the beginning might need to be adjusted as we progress. Maybe we need to redefine what 1% looks like as we get better at something, or perhaps we need to find new ways to challenge ourselves while still keeping the improvements manageable and sustainable.